Hello, it is so wonderful to meet you remotely, and I cannot wait to work with you next week. My name is Kristen Hunter Thompson. I am on the project team of ADVizE, and I am here to give you a little bit of an orientation as to what the project is and what we're working on to review ahead of time and to request that you participate in some asynchronous work that we're doing ahead of the workshop next week. Then we're all going to do asynchronously, and then we're going to be pulling it together and building upon it in our time together next week. So I've got just a little bit of information that I want to share with you all as we are getting going and to sort of orient and situate all of us as we are thinking about things getting ready. So ADVizE stands for a data visualization experience for pre-service teachers. And we are super excited to be having you join us as part of our fall 2024 cohort and all that entails. And as I mentioned, we want to do a little bit of sort of orientation, context setting, so that you have some information coming into our workshop next week, and so that this is recorded and you have it coming out of our workshop next week, and a reference point in the coming fall, different pieces like that. So where we have tried to come from in this perspective with ADVizE is really thinking about when do we use data in STEM and all of the different factors that go into that. And so those of us in the science field talk a lot about three-dimensional learning, and the practices are what students are doing, the core ideas is what students know, and the cross-cutting concepts are what students think about. Well, data is what we use. And those of us in the math realm, we talk about our practices and those everyday practices and how they are so core to actually applying and using all of our math concepts. Data, again, this key piece of what we use when we are doing science, technology, engineering, mathematics, social sciences, all of these different things. Data is an incredible tool. And for our pre-service teachers, when they go out into their future classrooms, they have two jobs, just the same way we as their faculty have two jobs when it comes to data. We have the use of data to support learning of content that is already known, helping our pre-service teachers wrap their heads around that so they can help their future students wrap their heads around that this is one way in which we use data. And this is a both and, we all use data to answer questions that enable us to push the fields of STEM forward by learning new knowledge. And so we need to create spaces and opportunities for our pre-service teachers to have those opportunities to use data in that way so that they can create similar opportunities for their future students to have those opportunities as well. And this duality of understanding of how we use data was a real big factor in the development of this ADVizE project. Another component is that working with data is messy. Making sense of data is messy. How do we pull back, scaffold back, sort of set up the situation, unpack all the pieces so that we're not just showing students pictures of this perfectly crafted visual charcoal drawing of the horse and holding that up as what it means to work with data, but we are, yes, showing them that and showing them step by step, piece by piece, how do we start? How do we get started in making sense of data and different pieces like that? Because when we work with data, there are two main things that happen in order for us to move from this fire hose of data coming in to where we are all trying to get to with data tool, which is, what does it mean? What do we want to say with these data? These two components are exploring our data and then explaining with data. And in this project, in ADVizE, we recognize that All of this is critically important. All of this is very necessary and needed to really build out the data literacy of our pre-service teachers so that they have that data literacy and confidence going in to bring to their future students. And we are asking you to integrate this into an existing curriculum, into an existing course. So we cannot do all of the pieces. So we have very specifically and strategically chosen in this project to focus on this exploring data component of working with data. And very specifically, we can think about the actions, the functions that are in blue, asking questions, generating data either ourselves or acquiring it from somebody else, quantifying the data, organizing, processing it, making sure it's in a form that we can use, visualizing it, and then sort of filtering, simplifying, transforming it so that it reveals patterns. All of these 6 functions that are in red fall into the camp of exploratory data analysis, exploring our data. Now, these 4 blue functions are critically important, very, very necessary, key parts of working with and making sense of data. And they are our transition into and very much in the camp of explanatory or confirmatory. I always get tripped up on that word, data analysis. Very critical, very necessary, not part of this project. Not to undermine it in any way, but just there's only so many minutes in our class periods. So where were we thinking we could focus? And we'll talk about this more next week, but we chose to focus on these exploratory data analysis, exploratory data work first, because we found in our lived experiences working with undergraduates and pre-service teachers that this was the area that was a lot murkier and a lot less clear for our students. And so that is why we've selected that focus area. So as I said, we'll explain a little bit, we'll get into it a little bit more, and are really excited to have discussions with you about this sort of exploratory and explanatory and all those different things our students can be doing with data. But we've gotten to this asynchronous part. So we have created a Jamboard, and what we are asking you to do in this Jamboard, I'll show it to you in just a few moments, is there are 3 boards, each has a question. What are you currently doing with data in your methods class or in your class that you're going to be integrating ADVizE supplementary curriculum into? What are your students typically good at with working with data? And then the third is, what do your students typically struggle with? So before I go any further, let me share with you what that Jamboard is going to look like. And we've been living in the world of Zoom screens and recordings and Jamboards and all these things for many years now. But just in case you're not familiar with a Jamboard, great tool that is going away this fall, but we are going to use it together with all of us in the next week. So each board has a question, just as I was saying, question 1, 2, and 3. You can get to it by just what I did by clicking down on the caret and selecting, or you can get to it by these arrows at the top. Your response to the question can come via a sticky note where you can type in, you can change the color, press save, and it will show up on the screen. You can add a text box, type into the text box. And if you are one of those humans that can write with your mouse and you would like to use the pen, have at it, all the power to you. I am not one of those people. So what we're asking is that you pick one of those different methods to respond to each of these 3 questions, each of the boards, before Tuesday. So before the end of the day, Tuesday, we're getting together on Wednesday. Super excited to see everyone. So before